I am going to say something that might make a lot of Dr. Joe fans uncomfortable. Most of us are making his work way more complicated than it needs to be, and it's actually blocking our results. Now, I know because I was the worst offender, and it nearly made me quit altogether. And for about 3 years now, for back then, I was meditating around 3 times per day, and I was getting minimal results. Okay, I was following every technique, and I was convinced that if I just did all the techniques perfectly enough, then the transformation would happen. Right? This is what I was doing. I was doing the pineal gland meditations, the blessing of the energy centers of meditations. I had the walking meditations. I had Becoming Supernatural, the audiobook on repeat in my car, practicing heart coherence, mental rehearsals, and reconditioning my body as well. Even just saying that sounds exhausting. You know what I mean? And it felt like this. It felt like I was literally juggling stuff in the air. Like all of these concepts simultaneously, right? Maintaining perfect heart coherence, visualizing my future, generating and sustaining elevated emotions, becoming no body, no one, no thing, surrendering, reconditioning my body, lowering my brainwave states, remaining awake while deeply relaxed as well. Oh my God. How exhausting is that? And have you ever sat down to meditate and then just spent the first 15 minutes trying to remember all the steps that you're supposed to do or trying to get them in the right order? Right? Has that happened to you? Me too. That is like trying to assemble IKEA furniture with instructions written in German or something else, and we don't even understand it. Like, there's a beautiful end result waiting, which is the piece, but the process makes you want to throw that tool that you get across the room. But here's the thing. What if I told you that beneath all the complex terminology, the various techniques, there's actually one simple formula that ties everything together? And it's a formula that is so straightforward that when I finally discovered it, I couldn't believe that I spent years overcomplicating everything. Okay? So, in this video, I'm going to share exactly how I went from overwhelmed and overthinking to experiencing the most profound meditations and results that I've ever had with Dr. Joe's work. Not by adding more complexity, but by stripping away everything down to its very essence. And I have a feeling that this is exactly what you've been looking for. Okay, so take some notes, get a snack, and let's do this. But I gotta take you back to where it all started, okay? 3 years ago, I hit a wall. I was sitting in my meditation chair at 5 a.m. and I should have been focusing on my heart or the pineal gland. I was wondering if I should be focusing on both. Wondering if my brainwaves were in the right state, worrying that I wasn't feeling enough elevated emotions. And I just broke down. And I literally just got so tired, I gave up. And I said, look, I can't do this anymore. And I meant it. I was done. Like, I got up from the meditation and I was thinking, like, is this supposed to be that hard? Is creating my reality supposed to be taking this much of an effort? And I didn't realize back then, but I had created an identity to be perfect, or perfecting the technique. And me being Asian, it meant that I always had to get an A+ on every assignment, you know what I mean? And I would be too scared to show my parents if I ever got an A-. By the way, I never got A's. I'm the kind of Asian that sucks at maths, okay? Except instead of maths problems, I was obsessing over whether my heart coherence was at 100%, or if my visualization or mental rehearsal in my new reality was vivid enough. So I was preparing. Felt like I was preparing for a date by obsessively researching the perfect things to say, the perfect outfit to wear, the restaurant to choose. And then I would be so in my head during the actual date that I would actually forget to connect with the girl. Like, what's the point? Right? That is the same thing that I was doing in meditation. And are you doing this as well? Now listen carefully. Here's the thing. What if I told you that beneath all the language of science, the different techniques, there's actually just one simple formula that ties everything together? Okay? A formula so straightforward that when I discovered it, I couldn't believe I spent years complicating it. What if the reason you are not seeing the results you want isn't just because you're not doing enough, but because you're trying to do too much? What if that was the reason that you're blocking your manifestations? What if all these retreats, books, meditations are actually pointing to something much more simpler than we believe? And I probably sound like a crazy person in the Joe community right now. But I used to be that guy where I would compare notes on how many hours I would meditate each day. Like it was some kind of competition. Like even to my friends here in Australia, in the community, I'd be like, oh, You only spend 1 hour a day meditating? Well, I do 3, plus a walking meditation, plus I listen to his meditations while I sleep. Oh my God. Crazy, right? But then I discovered, and what I'm about to share with you, it's completely transformed my practice altogether, and my actual results as well. And it all started when I finally gave myself permission to stop trying so damn hard. So this is going to be a banger, okay? Because, hey, what's up, my friend? Kevin here. Just a quick heads up for all the entrepreneurs and professionals watching this. If you have been feeling stuck, but you know you're capable of more, I've got a few spots open right now for my one-on-one mentorship. In this program, I'll personally guide you through my identity frequency mapping process to break through the patterns holding you back so you can create the results that you've been chasing. Whether that's more income, more freedom to spend time with your loved ones, or finally living the life that you've envisioned for so long. Now, I can only work with a handful of clients at a time to give you my full attention, and spots tend to actually go very quickly. So if you are interested in making the shift now, then please click on the link below this video, book a call, and let's see if we're a good fit to work together. Now back to the video. It's not about adding more complexity, but it's stopping and stripping everything down to its essence. Okay? One simple formula. So, the thing is about all this, before we get into that, and I know you already see it here, before we get even into that formula, Dr. Joe talks about this all the time. He's always yapping away about getting beyond the analytical mind. Yet there I was, analyzing every aspect of my meditation. Okay, every aspect of it. So I had turned a process meant to free me from my limited thinking, from my analytical mind, into another thing to overthink. I was trying to simultaneously juggle maintaining heart coherence, visualizing my future, feeling elevated emotions, becoming no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, no time, all of these things. Okay? And that's a lot. Trying to slow my brainwaves down, trying to maintain perfect focus, like even just trying to focus on one of these things is just hard enough itself. Okay? I don't know if you know that game when we were in school, when you try to pat your head, rub your stomach, and hop in one foot at the same time. And now you have to add in solving a Rubik's Cube while you're at it. Or while meditating. Like, no wonder meditation felt like an exhausting thing to do. Okay? But I want to share something that I've never told anyone before. Because after one particular frustrating meditation, I just stopped my meditation, I got up, and gave up on myself. Now, that sounds blasphemous, especially in the Dr. Joe community, but that moment of surrender made me realize something profound. Okay? I had turned meditation into another form of achievement, another thing to perfect, another way to prove my worth. So the very practice that was supposed to free me from my achievement-oriented ego, oh my God, it had become hijacked by that same ego. But the worst part was that I'd have these incredible experiences at Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreats, right? I'd feel connected, expanded, I would feel truly transformed. And I remember at one retreat during one of the meditations, I had this awesome experience of merging with everything around me. Like the boundaries between me and not me completely dissolved. It was beautiful, I felt transcended, and the theme for this retreat was called Infinite Doors. And when I was in that space, I started seeing infinite doors during the meditation, and it said that I had access to these doors. So I knew parallel realities existed. Then I would come home, and within a month, sometimes 3 months, that expanded state would fade. And then I would blame myself. I'd think, why everyone else at the retreat are still having these amazing states. They're probably manifesting miracles left and right. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why can't I maintain this? And if this sounds familiar, and if you're nodding your head right now, I want you to know that you're not alone. Okay, you're not alone. You're not doing anything wrong. In fact, after talking with about hundreds of people, other people in the community, and helping my clients, I've realized that there are several mistakes, common mistakes that many of us make when applying this work. Okay? First, we try to implement everything at once instead of mastering one element at a time. Okay? Second, we focus more on the techniques than the states of beings that the techniques are designed to create for us. And third, we judge our practice based on how it feels in the moment rather than the long-term results that it produces. Fourth, we compare our inner experiences to what we imagine others are experiencing as well. So we compare. And finally, this is the big one. We overcomplicate what is meant to be simple. Because Dr. Joe often says that knowledge is for the mind, but experience is for the body, right? Yet, many of us get caught up in the accumulation of knowledge that we never fully embody the experience. We're like people who read about swimming but never actually get into water. And so that's exactly what many of us are actually doing with meditation and manifestation. We are overthinking something that is meant to be at the core actually quite simple. So there I was, having my spiritual meltdown about at 5 a.m. But something interesting happened in that moment of complete surrender. Okay? In that moment of complete surrender, when I stopped trying so hard to get all of this right, I didn't have a voice or a vision. It was just suddenly a sudden clarity that washed over me. And it said, well, it felt like, what if all the teachings beneath all the scientific language and meditation techniques were pointing to one simple formula? So the next morning, instead of my complex routine, I sat down with a blank piece of paper and wrote down what felt true, stripped all the complicated language, and what emerged was so simple that it seemed too basic. It was too basic to be powerful. Coherent state plus clear intention plus elevated emotion equals new reality. That's it. Everything else was just details and variations of these core elements. Okay? At first, I almost felt guilty for simplifying his work this way, like I was cheating somehow. Okay? This is how I was in high school. I would always cheat from the smart kids because they were my friends. And so I wasn't a smart Asian kid. Sorry, I don't fit the stereotype. But anyway, so I started going back through his books and his lectures with this formula in mind, okay? Then I realized something incredible. Everything he teaches fits in one of these three categories. Okay, let's go through them. When he talks about coherence, becoming no body, getting beyond the analytical mind, that is all about achieving coherent states. You see that? Theta brainwaves, open focus is all about receiving coherent states. Now, listen carefully. When he's talking about mental rehearsal, when he's talking about creating your day or designing your future, end of day reviews, those are about forming a clear intention. Cool? Now, when he emphasizes about gratitude, joy, feeling your emotions of your future before it happens, guess what that is? That's all about generating elevated emotions. Easy, right? The formula itself isn't revolutionary. Dr. Joe has described this process many times. What was revolutionary for me was realizing that I didn't need to perfectly execute 20 different techniques. I just needed to achieve these three elements which work best for me. Okay? These three elements that work best for me. So I decided to try this stripped down approach for a month, only focusing on these three elements without the complexity that I have been adding previously, okay? No more obsessing about techniques or the science, just these core principles applied consistently, okay? It's like going from trying to follow a 50-step recipe with ingredients that I don't even know how to pronounce to making a simple 3-ingredient dish. And we all know that sometimes the simplest recipes taste the best. There's actually solid neuroscience behind why simplicity works better than complexity when it comes to actual transformation as well. Okay, let's go through it. Our brains have limited cognitive resources. This is what scientists call cognitive load. Okay, when we try to focus on too many things at once, we deplete these resources and reduce our brain's ability to create new neural pathways. Okay? Following along? Think about it this way. When your computer has too many programs running at once, it's slow, right? Well, guess what? Our brains work similarly. When you're trying to juggle multiple complex stuff or concepts during meditation, then you're essentially running too many programs at once. So your mental processing power gets divided and diminished. However, when you simplify your focus to just these three elements, coherent state, clear intention, and elevated emotion, wow, you free up tremendous mental resources. That is like closing programs and letting your brain run just one powerful application at full speed. Okay, now pay attention, because we are going to break down each element of this formula in more depth. Okay, so you can actually really understand how this works. So, and take down these notes. Element number one is coherent state. Okay, what exactly is coherence? In simple terms, it's when your heart and brain and nervous system are in harmony, working together in harmony instead of fighting each other. Okay, this is a state of internal alignment, and it's beyond analytical and survival mode. Dr. Joe talks about heart coherence specifically because there's research from Heart Math Institute, and it is shown that the heart is able to generate electromagnetic fields about 60 times greater than the brain. So when your heart is coherent, in a coherent rhythm, it actually helps regulate your brain waves and your nervous system as well. Harmonization. Wow. But here's what's more important to understand. You don't need to achieve some perfect state of coherence by measuring it with a machine. You don't need any of those heart math devices, okay? You just need to get coherent enough that you are in no longer a state of survival and beyond the analytical mind. That's it. It's a threshold effect, not a perfect score you need to achieve. Okay? The second element is clear intention. Clear intention, okay? This is simply about getting specific about what you want to create or become. But again, many of us complicate this. We think we need to visualize every tiny detail of our desired reality, when what really matters is the essence. The essence. Focus on the essence over the details. Okay? That is like ordering at a restaurant. You don't need to tell the chef exactly how to prepare your meal down to the last grain of salt. No. You just need to clearly communicate what dish you want and trust that the kitchen knows how to prepare it. Similarly, you don't need to micromanage the universe on how to deliver your intention. You just need to be clear about what you want and trust the process. Okay? That's it. Focus on how it feels, not every detail. And then trust. Now, element number 3, elevated emotion. Now, this is the rocket fuel of manifestation. Without emotion, intentions are just thoughts. But when you add elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, peace, freedom, or love, you are essentially telling your body that the future event has already happened. Okay? Signals to your body that the future is now. From a neuroscience perspective, when you combine a clear intention with elevated emotion, you are creating long-term potentiation. Okay? I didn't write that there because it's quite nerdy, but listen. In your brain, you're strengthening specific neural pathways related to your intention. So you are literally rewiring your brain to perceive and create your new reality. How cool is that? Now, when you combine all these 3 elements, okay, coherent state getting you beyond stress and analytical thinking, a clear intention that helps you to focus on your energy in a specific direction, and elevated emotion that signals to your body that the future event has already happened to you. When you combine all these 3, you create the perfect conditions for transformation and manifestation. Awesome, right? This is the essence of everything Dr. Joe teaches, and all the techniques, all the science, and the terminology all comes down to these 3 elements working together. And I remember one day I was driving to the grocery store, the supermarket, not meditating, not doing anything spiritual, and I noticed something shifted. I wasn't overthinking everything. I wasn't constantly checking if I was doing things right or looking for my manifestation. I was just being. And in that simple state, I felt more aligned with my desired reality than I ever had during my most elaborate meditations. It was like I'd been trying so hard to push through a door when all I needed to do was relax and pull the door instead. Pull the door. I was in the shopping center picking out avocados, because Aussies like their avocados, when this wave of gratitude just washed over me. Not because I was feeling grateful or trying to feel grateful, but because I was genuinely grateful for the abundance of food, for the ability to choose what I wanted to eat, for the simple pleasure of being alive. I was just in like a perfect state, let's just say that. But in the moment, I realized I'd been experiencing what had been trying to create so hard in my meditations. And I carried that elevated state in my everyday life without even trying. So as I continued with this simplified approach, the transformation I'd been chasing for years started happening naturally. The synchronicities, the opportunities, the internal shifts, all the things that I've been trying so hard to create through effort, struggle, things just started flowing. Now, let me get more specific in this. For instance, I'd been visualizing a specific career for months without results. Okay, this was about 3 years ago. 2 weeks into simplifying my approach, I got a call from out of the blue offering me exactly what I had been intending. But here's the thing. It came from a completely unexpected way that was actually better than I'd been visualizing. Okay? So, I had been visualizing... Okay, let me be specific. I'd been intending to create to expand my coaching practice back then to work with more corporate clients. Okay? In my visualizations, I would always mentally rehearse myself giving workshops to executives in boardrooms. So corporate workshops. Okay? In-person corporate workshops. The thing, I had everything planned, what I would wear, what I would say, how I would structure the workshops. Okay? But what actually happened was that an old colleague, an old workmate reached out to me about creating an online course for their company's leadership team. Now, this wasn't a one-time workshop, what I had mentally rehearsed, but it was a recurring program that would reach hundreds of leaders across the organization. Now, listen, the pay was triple, okay? Triple what I wanted to charge for my in-person events. Now I create income from home without any travel. Okay, no travel, order reaching 100 more people, recurring revenue versus one time, perfect alignment with my strengths. So I had stopped micromanaging the universe in that process because the universe knows what I want and how to deliver it in ways that I can better imagine it. Okay? This wasn't a one-time fluke as well. I started noticing this pattern because the less I tried to control exactly how my intentions would unfold, the more elegantly they would show up in my reality. Another example is I was trying to improve my abundance, basically, intending to, in the past, I would have visualized specific amounts of money, okay, from specific sources. However, in my new approach, I simply held the intention of feeling abundant and this feeling of security and freedom. Okay, listen to that carefully. Security and freedom was the essence. Within a month, 3 unexpected sources of income appeared. Okay, one from a tax error, and one from an invitation to co-create a program with another coach that brought in immediate revenue, and one client who decided to pay for my premium package. Okay, none of these things were what I specifically visualized, but together they created the exact financial shift that I had been intending. Okay? So what I had realized is that when we get too specific about the how, we actually limit what's possible. Our analytical minds can only imagine possibilities based on past experiences and limited knowledge. Now when we focus on the essence, focus on what we want, while maintaining the elevated emotion, we open ourselves to possibilities beyond what we could have imagined. And this wasn't just me. Right? I started simplifying this approach with my clients who are also struggling with the complexity of Dr. Joe's work. Now, if you haven't seen Abhinav's case study where he manifested $300,000, you need to check it out and listen to what he says on how simple it is and how simple his meditation practice has now become. Okay? Because when we simplified his practices, I quote what he says, which was to align with what my messaging is, and basically it's as simple as breathing. And all he needed to do was relax. That's it. Go back and look at the testimonial itself. But it's that easy. What I've come to realize is that simplicity works better than complexity for a fundamental buttloads of reasons. Okay? Our brains can only focus effectively on a limited number of things at once. When we try to juggle too many concepts, we end up in a state of cognitive overload. Okay? Which is literally opposite of coherent state. The coherent state we're trying to achieve is opposite of that. Okay? That is like trying to relax by reading a book about relaxation while also listening to a relaxation podcast while also doing breathing exercise. You get the point, okay? At some point, all of these relaxation techniques actually create more stress. And so, Dr. Joe often talks about how stress and survival emotions keep us connected to the past. You've heard that before, right? But what I realized is that the stress of trying to perfectly implement every aspect of his teachings was actually keeping me in the same survival state, the very state that I was trying to transcend. So, there's interesting neuroscience that explains why this happens. Because when we are in a state of stress or survival or cognitive overload, our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for creative thinking, future planning, possibility, actually goes offline. Blood flow is redirected to our limbic system and brainstem, the parts responsible for survival and emotional reactivity. So listen to this. The harder we try to perfectly execute complex meditation techniques, the more we activate the very brain regions that keep us stuck in our old patterns. Wow. We literally can't access the parts of our brain necessary for transformation when we are stressed about doing it right. Ooh. Whose buttons am I pushing right now? This creates a paradox. The harder we try to force transformation, the more we reinforce the very patterns we are trying to change. Like quicksand, the more you struggle, the more deeper you sink. Simplicity isn't just easier, it is more effective. Because when you strip away all the complexity, you can actually focus on what matters. Okay? Now listen to this. Listen to this. Many wisdom traditions talk about the concept of effortless effort, okay? Or Wu Wei in Taoism. I love the Taoist philosophy. Wu Wei is the idea of accomplishing more by doing less or trying less. This is not about being lazy. It's about aligning with the natural flow instead of constantly fighting against it. When I look back at my journey with Dr. Joe's work, I realized my transformation didn't come from trying harder. It came from finally understanding that transformation isn't something you achieve through force of will. No, maybe at the beginning you might have to overcome your old programs, but it's something you allow through alignment with these three simple steps, three elements. Okay, listen carefully. Let's break down how to actually apply this formula in your daily practice. Okay, remember, coherent state plus clear intention equals new reality. So element 1 is achieving a coherent state simply. Now, true coherent state, the coherent state is fundamentally about getting beyond your analytical mind and step into open awareness. All right? Step into open awareness. Now, Dr. Joe describes many ways to achieve this, but here's what I found works best. Start with a simple, okay, write this down. Start with simple, this is exactly what I do. Start with simple focused heart focused breathing. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out while focusing on your heart area. Do this for 5 to 10 minutes until you feel a shift in your body. Okay, that's the key word, until you feel a shift in your body. Maybe a sense of opening, relaxation, or warmth. Okay? You don't need to try to measure your heart rate variability or achieve some perfect state of coherence. You just need to get to a point where you feel more open, relaxed, and less caught in your analytical thinking. Okay? Think of it like tuning a radio. You don't need to understand the physics or psychics of radio waves to try to find your favorite station. You just need to simply turn the dial until the static clears and the music smiling comes through clearly. Can actually shift your physiology and help you access a more coherent state. If you find actually research that's showing that to achieve a coherent state through breathing, positive, neurochemical changes in your brain. Try placing your hand on your heart while you breathe, right? Because now this physical touch helps direct your awareness to your heart center when trying to achieve a coherent state. Okay. Secondly, now, if your mind is constantly wondering, before you begin, fight it. This could be gratitude for a loved one, the thought without judgment, and gently fact that your awareness back to your heart, and start from a place of appreciation. Now, listen to this. Makes achieving coherence much easier. There's a caveat to this. No self-criticism allowed. You need to be in a regulated nervous system. No criticizing yourself. Okay. Time to leave that old self-criticism behind. If you feel emotions like frustration or impatience arising, that is actually a good sign. It means old patterns are resurfacing so they can be released. All you have to do is acknowledge the emotions, breathe through them, and they will begin to dissolve. If you feel physically uncomfortable or restless, try changing your position slightly or do a quick body scan to release tension before returning to heart-focused breathing. How easy is that? Okay, next. Element 2, creating clear intentions without overthinking. This is where most of us get stuck in trying to be perfect. We think our visualizations need to be as detailed as a 4K movie with surround sound, but that is not necessary. What matters is emotional clarity, not visual perfection. Ask yourself, how would I feel if my desired reality were already true? Then allow a simple scene or two that represents that reality to naturally emerge. Simple as that. For example, instead of trying to visualize every detail of your dream house, just imagine the feeling of walking through the front door and a sense of home that washes over you. Okay? The emotion is what matters more than the visual details. Try writing your intention as a single sentence that captures the essence of what you want to create. This is the thing. Keep it simple and focused on the results, not the process of getting there. Okay? Here are some obstacles with setting clear intentions. They include: if you find yourself getting lost in details, zoom out and ask, what's the essence of what I'm creating here? Focus on that. Until you get to a feeling, that is the essence. That is your true desire, true why. If you're unsure of what you really want, start with how you want to feel. Okay? Then make the form specific later. If you notice resistance or doubt arising, don't fight it. Simply acknowledge it as an old pattern and gently return to your intention or your breath. Simple, right? Element number 3, accessing elevated emotional states authentically. Okay? This is where the real power lies. But here's what I discovered. You can't force elevated emotions. The harder you try to feel joy or gratitude, the more elusive these feelings become. Instead, use memory as a doorway. Okay, this is only one strategy. Use memory as a doorway. Think of a time when you naturally felt the emotion you're trying to access, whether it's gratitude, joy, freedom, or love. Let yourself fully re-experience that memory for a moment. Okay? If you have any reference points, please use that, where you have felt any of these emotions before. Okay? Then once you've activated that emotion, gently shift your attention to your intention while maintaining that elevated feeling. Like emotional surfing, you catch the wave of the emotion from your memory and then ride it into your new intention. Wow. Here are some techniques for accessing elevated emotions easily. First, create what I call an emotional playlist, okay? A collection of memories that reliably evoke different elevated emotions for you. Have at least one memory for each of the core elevated emotions: gratitude, joy, freedom, love, and inspiration. I'm going to add peace in here because I love peace. Second, use music strategically. Okay, find songs that naturally evoke elevated emotions for you and use them as a shortcut to access these states. Okay, you can create different playlists for different emotions as well. And third, try the as-if technique. This involves physically moving your body as if you were already experiencing that elevated emotion. I love this one. This is perfect. Okay, this is one of my favorites and what I love to give my clients. Stand tall, smile, open your arms wide. Whatever physical expression matches the emotion you're trying to access, do it. Your physiology and emotions are deeply connected, and sometimes changing your physical state is the fastest way to change your emotional state. If you're depressed, why is the best advice go work out or do some fitness stuff? Now listen carefully. These don't need to be difficult at all. Start with physical sensations. Notice the feeling of your breath, warmth in your hands, the beating of your heart. Okay? Physical awareness opens doors to emotional awareness. If you keep slipping into negative emotions, don't resist them. Simply acknowledge them, thank them for trying to protect you, and gently redirect your focus back to your breath. That's it. If you feel like you're faking it, remember that you are not trying to manufacture emotions out of nothing. You are simply reconnecting with emotions you've genuinely felt before. Okay, now let's get practical. Let's put this together in a daily practice so that you can actually do this, not just be a content consumer. Okay? Start with 10 to 15 minutes of heart-focused breathing to achieve a coherent state. Okay? 10 to 15 minutes heart-focused breathing. Next is basically spend a couple of minutes accessing the elevated emotion. Okay? Holding the feeling of your intention as if it's already happened. Okay? Now, clear intention, add that in when you are in that elevated emotion. Hold the intention as if it's already real, and then integrate it. Once you do, be grateful for this new reality. That's it. You could obviously make this longer as well, but I want you to start without it overwhelming you. Because that's the beautiful part. You can do this multiple times throughout your day. It doesn't need to be a major production with special music or an hour of your free time. No, you can do a 2-minute version while you are waiting for your coffee. Okay? While you're standing in line waiting for lunch, whatever. This is like the difference between only exercising when you have a full 90-minute workout versus doing 10-minute workouts whenever you can throughout the day, right? Guess which approach leads to more consistent results? That's right. Now, beyond formal practice, the real magic happens when you start integrating this formula into your day. Okay? So write this down. I'm giving it all to you. I'm giving it all to you. So give yourself coherence breaks, okay? Create coherence breaks throughout your day. Set a reminder on your phone to take 30 seconds every hour to simply breathe into your heart and reset your state. My God, I promise you, that is so powerful. Use transition moments as triggers, like before starting your car, entering a meeting, before eating a meal, okay? Do this trigger to quickly align with your intention and your elevated emotion. Next, practice what I call state awareness, regularly checking in with yourself to notice if you've slipped out of coherence and back into stress and survival mode, okay? The sooner you catch these shifts, the easier it is for you to reset. All right, let's do this. Now, one particular tip is measuring your progress differently. Instead of judging your practice on how it feels in the moment, look for these signs of real transformation, okay? Are you recovering from emotional triggers more quickly than before? What a cool sign. Are you noticing more synchronicities in your daily life? Are you making decisions from a place of possibility, expansion, rather than fear? Are you feeling more at peace with uncertainty? Those are powerful questions, okay? These are real indicators that your practice is working, not whether you saw colors or felt tingles during your meditation. Those are great too, don't get me wrong, but these are the real measurable effects, okay? But there you have it. The simple formula that underlies all of Joe's teachings, okay? Coherent state plus clear intention plus elevated emotion equals new reality. And looking back, I realized that my breakthrough didn't come from adding more complexity to my practice, but it came from finally understanding the essence beneath all the techniques. And when I focused on that essence, everything else fell into place. And I know it will for you.